Hello everyone. In this video we are going to see the basics of transport systems and even the modes of the transport systems involved in the logistics management, which is a part of unit 3, and it will be dealt by myself, Amruta Hipperwalker. Coming to the basics of transports, a transport system comprises the elements of the goods transported, that is transport object, the first one as we can see it, right? The means of transport used, that is the mode of transport, traffic routes, and even if you can see there is also the transport chain also available, right? That is nothing but the it is an organized, that is a transport process is an organized transport sequence is required, right? So for that purpose transport chain is considered. And then the last part of the transport system is the transport services. So as we have discussed, that is transport object is nothing but it is the elements of the goods transported, and that is what is the particular product we are going to transport and all. And when we see the means of transport, then comes is the modes of transport, that is which mode of transport you are going to use, and the traffic routes under that particular modes of transport we will be discussing it. And then comes is the transport chain, that is nothing but the sequences, right? Transport sequence we need to identify, or any organization need to, logistics company need to identify this. And then comes is the transport services. Under transport services, if you see, it causes movements of people or goods. So we can distinguish between internal and external transport services, as you can see here, internal and external transport services. So internal transport services, for instance, occur within a plant among different departments of a warehouse. So it is internal, that is why it is named as. And if you say external transport services take place between suppliers and customers, or between plants and warehouses. So these are the transport services that is very much required. And whenever we say transport processes, right, so carried out without actual goods being transported are referred to as empty transport, we call it as. And the criteria for a transport service is nothing but that is services are providing location, destination, and the goods transported. So goods are generally not manipulated during the transport process, that is merely the technical process of changing location takes place. And the transport service performance, if you can see, it is measured in ton kilometers, so TKM we call it as. So companies may use their own vehicles to carry out the transport services. So this is referred to as private haulage. So haulage is nothing but the that is private haulage. So they are having their own transport carryouts, right? Vehicles, their own vehicles are there, so that is called as the private haulage, right? So there has been a tendency, however, towards logistic service providers being commissioned with the transport, right? So the means of transport used for this include is the not one means of the transport. Under that we will be seeing various, that is modes of transport which are called as the air, rail transport, road, and water, right? So the vehicles employed in this modes of transport are truck, railway carriages, as well as inland and ocean vessels, right? So the totality of both means and modes of transport is the pipeline network also, which we will be discussing it. And transport service is a basic element of, if you see on the whole, transport services provided is a basic element of logistics services. So these services comprise all relevant interdependencies between production, transfer, and consumption, and are integrated into the value chains of senders and receivers. So apart from the transport component, logistics services also include the sub-services of transshipment, storage, sorting services, and auxiliary services also, which we have discussed in the earlier video, right? So the transshipment consists of the loading and unloading of the vehicles, which we have discussed, and storage serves to modify the temporal properties of goods and to bridge them, right? So even the sorting services are also there, such as sorting out, sorting in and sorting out the alter the quantitative and categorical composition of the goods, right? And auxiliary services include services such as packing, ensuring custom clearance, as well as you can consider many of the things that is even there comes under even infrastructure, whatever you are trying to provide, and all these things, and the transport infrastructure also can be a part of it. So information exchange also nowadays is creating an requirement of this particular transport systems, right? So if you overall you see the production and cross-border consumption processes based on the fragmented workflow, and thus the mobility of the goods only become possible through transport, traffic and logistic services in conjunction. So as companies are going global and they are trying to provide the products to all over the country, transport is the basic service which is required by any company. So that is why it is gaining a lot of importance, and that is why we are seeing trying to analyze the basics of the transport. And after analyzing this particular diagram, we will be concentrating on now modes of transport and terms related to it. Coming to the modes of transport, whenever we are trying to say, we can categorize this into 7 things, that is transport value and affinity. So what the transport value and affinity we are going to provide. Then comes is the road freight transport, that is related to road. Third is the rail freight transport, and the fourth one is the sea freight transport. And then we will be seeing inland waterway transport, air freight transport and pipeline transport. Let's look into each of this in detail. Transport value and transport affinity. So whenever we say transport value and transport affinity, what is transport value? It is the value that is generated with the help of that particular transport, right? And whenever we are saying transport affinity, which describes the requirements of the transport object or of the consumer respectively. So transport value defines the individual quality features of the transport modes, whereas which is closely related to this concept of transport affinity, which tries to describe the requirements of the transport object. So that's the, if we try to see the key requirements of this particular transport value and transport affinity, if you can see, the first one is the mass transport capacity, that is capability of a means of transport to transport large volumes at low cost. So mass transport capacity, as we can see, whenever we go for mass transports, you can get low cost, right? So you have large volumes of product which needs to be transported, so you can get low cost for that particular product, right? And then comes is the speediness, that is transport duration, transport speed, capability of a means of transport to quickly transport goods. So that comes under the speediness. And coming to the network forming capability, third one, so capability of carrying out spatially inclusive and comprehensive transport includes the network forming capability, that is whatever mode you are trying to select, or that is how it is trying to generate value in terms of network forming capability. That will be the third criteria. And then comes as the fourth criteria, which is predictability, that is measurement for transport time reliability, that is being timeliness of transports, that is you can predict when the particular product can arrive at your destination or particular source, that is it has started from the source and it has reached to the destination. That is predictability, and measurement is sure or not. And this next criteria is the flexible schedules, that is frequency of transport services, that is even how many times you can transport that particular product, capability to adapt to changed schedules and requirements. All this comes under flexible schedules. And then comes is the spatial flexibility, that is capability of spatially relocating or integrating means of transport and even transport capacities. And then comes is the safety, that is measurement for accident frequency of transports, which is very much concerned nowadays, that is accident frequency of transports and even the amount of damage which is going to occur because of this accident frequencies. Even you can see many of the research papers have been on that particular topic, that is safety under transportation, and which one is the most safer one. And because huge costs are involved in the transport services, it is very important to consider. So that is why safety is one of the criteria whenever we are going to see transport value and transport affinity. And then comes is the environmental impact, that is especially the use of energy, pollutant emission and noise emission. All these things need to be considered whenever we are seeing value and affinity. So any transporter nowadays we are going for the green logistics, green transportation. So all these things have to be kept in mind while choosing the mode of the transports, and which try to generate value and affinity. Those particular mode of transportation have to be chosen by the particular logistic company. So this was our first criteria which we have tried to discuss under modes of transports and transport system. Coming to the next one is the road freight transport. So we'll be seeing what is the characteristics of road freight transports. As we know, road freight transports means we are going to select the mode of transportation as roads, right? So here if you see the characteristics, what it should include basically. So good network forming possibilities, right? That is a good linkage between the primary elements of the traffic system is possible with the help of the road freight transport. So good network forming possibilities is can be there. That is the first characteristics, as you can see. And second one is speediness in conjunction with a relatively low transport risk. So that is direct delivery in door-to-door transport, transshipment and or intermediate charging are only conditionally necessary or not at all necessary at right sometimes. So speediness in conjunction with a relatively low transport risk. So there is a low transport risk and even speediness in conjunction will be there. So what happens is like door-to-door transport is possible in this particular road freight transports, right? And rational utilization of the network, normally via groupage, delivery traffic and feeder traffic are there. So rational utilization of the network can be possible nowadays. If you can see in the Google Maps also, you can see figure it out where the traffic is more and you can divert your particular path, right? So even the Google tries to guide you where the particular traffic is low, so choose that path and move ahead, right? The next one is the utilization of vehicles specific to the volume of goods. This is silo truck and dump truck. Even there is vehicles specific to the volume of goods are there. So there are silo trucks, dump trucks are there. Refrigerated transports will be there, where you will be trying to, for example, some vaccines are there, and so you require refrigeration, right? So at that time, refrigerated transport is very important. Tank transport is there. Luggage transport is also one of the parts. Container transport, semi-trailer trucks are there. High capacity transport, heavy load transport, and even many of the categories are there. So based on the volume of the goods, you will be trying to utilize the vehicles so that the vehicle gets loaded appropriately, not overloaded also, not underloaded also. And then comes is the cost optimization and environmental impact optimization by means of the piggyback system with railway. Even piggyback system is a very good one. The concept of piggyback is such a way that you try to, that is, you are lifting your baby on your back, right? So and you are moving, so even your baby is moving with you. So it's just an example I'm trying to give you. So piggyback is like you might have seen the rails where the trucks have been rail tracks have been, that is not even tracks, that is rails are loaded with trucks, right? So trucks are being transported, that is the whole material is like whole goods are kept in the trucks and the trucks are loaded on the train freight, right? And then they are reached, then they are transported to some place, and from there from the road they are again being transported to the destination. So even piggyback concept is also very good. And in long haul transport abroad, road freight transport is one used for the first and the last transport stages. That is usually, if you see, pre-transport from sender to the sea-going vessel, that is a sea-going vessel, or even you can take airport. So at that time, that is why it is called as first and the last transport stages. Whenever the particular long haul transportation transport abroad it is considered, and onward transport from port of discharge to the buyer on the target market. So this was one of the important points need to be considered. And relatively short standstill periods and latency will be observed in the road freight transport, and high flexibility, that is with regard to acceptance dates, delivery deadlines, dates for transport, and possibilities for new disposition of goods and transport modes. And the last one is complex competitive relationships are there. So both within road freight transport and with other modes of transport, if you can see, complex competitive relationships are there in road freight transport. And if on the right side, if you can see the figure, that is road freight transport, I have tried to mention the distinguishing characteristics of road freight transport. So inland transport is on the left side, you can see here, And if you can see, the cross-border transport is there on the right side of it. So commercial freight transports, short hauls. Commercial means that we have discussed earlier only in the part of the video. That is commercial, you're trying to buy from someone else, where short hauls, that is short distances based on that, and long hauls is like large distances are there. And private haulage also is used, that is private, our own cars can be there, that is a logistics company can have its own car or own vehicles based on which short hauls and long hauls are carried out. So inland transports are also given, and cross border transports are there, so from where the particular products are picked and sent to the destination. So this was regarding road freight transport. Let's see the some of the facts of road freight transport in India. I have tried to get the data from various sources, statista.com, and even many of the ibef.org, and many of the sites I have tried to use, so that you can get the information regarding road freight transport in India. So the government of India is planning to expand the national highway to over 2 lakh kilometers. The government launched the Bharatmala Pariyojana, which aims to build 66,100 kilometers of economic corridors, border and coastal roads and expressways to boost the highway network. It is envisaged that the program will provide 4-lane connectivity to 550 districts, and almost it has done in many of the parts, many of the cities. Increase vehicular speed by 20 to 25%, and reduce the supply chain cost by 5 to 6%. So the first phase of the program will bring in USD 82 billion investments by 2022 for the development of 34,800 kilometer of highways. So you can see that is long-term planning of India is like really very good, and if it is going to work out like in the similar way, it can see that there can be a huge increase in the business and in the transportation of goods can be expected, and it is very a good source of income for government of India. And even if you can see, India is setting new standards for green highways. The national highway spans over states of Himachal Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. The unique roadways infrastructure project will involve green cover and utilization of reusable material while laying the roads. Even it is trying to take into consideration green concept. And the total cost of government's mega green highway project is Indian rupees 7,662.47 crore, which also involves a loan component of Indian rupees 3,500 crores or US dollar 500 million. So the World Bank will provide the loan under the Green National Highways Corridor project. And if you can see, India is trying to solve the road freight traffic also by trying to maintain that is even you can see in the Google Maps, you can track them. Even they are trying to use the information systems which are which will be helping them and guiding them in solving various problems, right? So road freight transport in India is increasing at a higher speed. Even you can see at the right side, I have tried to put the summary of that is how many volume of freight transportation has been done in billion metric tons. If you can see from fiscal year 2001 to 2017, so you can see there is an increase of the particular volumes, right? So by 2017 you can see that it has reached to a height, and it is more than this right in this 2020, and it is expected to grow in a huge pace in the future. And this is regarding road freight transport. Coming to the third topic of our this video, that is rail freight transport. So rail freight transport is nothing but railways we are trying to consider here. High capable of performing mass transport resulting in low direct cost for production. So high capable of performing is there, and mass transport is there, which results in low direct cost, and this is considered to be the cheapest one among all the things, all the modes of transport. Especially suited for long and direct mainland transport. So mainland transports wherever are there and long distances are there, this is the best suitable for almost any kind of goods, for valuable large volume or bulky goods, For bulk goods, if there are no convenient connections via canals or rivers, and for goods that cannot or may not be transported on the road. So railways can be very useful in that sense. Speediness in the case of block trains or direct trains without shunting will be there, and timetables and rail track allocation greatly ensure timely delivery. Relative independence from rush hours in road traffic, holiday traffic and adverse weather conditions. So it's a safer thing, if you can see. That is what is our next point, that is safe transport handling, especially when transporting hazardous material. Relatively environmentally friendly method of transport, so is also very good. And if you can see here, it is like timetables are followed, and accidents are also very less compared here to the road freight transport. So relatively low network density and thus limited possibilities for door-to-door transport. So door-to-door transport is not possible here, which is compared to the road, it is not here, which entails costly and time-consuming transshipment activities. So however, subsidies for railroad sidings to warehouses in industrial estates can be there. Strict adherence to timetables and allocated train lengths is a positive characteristics of the trains. And low transport speed, that is more time is required, especially in the case of single wagons due to the shunting procedures required for train formation and because of prioritized passenger service. And if you see, weak competition from foreign railroad competitors due to limited marketability, and border delays due to varying technical requirements of country, that is due to as varying technical requirements of country specific railroad systems are there, that is why border delays can take place. And on the right side, if you can see, this was related to the characteristics of rail freight transport. On the right side, if you can see, railroad transport services, so wagon load transport is there. Under there we can see that is wagon based, it will be there. So single wagon groups or block trains or shuttle trains are used here. And then comes as the part load transport, and the third one is the combined transport, that is combined trailer transport. Piggy bank transport, which we have earlier discussed, that is you can include one more, that is you can have a sequence of 10 to 15 trucks are loaded on the train, so that the train is carrying out from one source to the one point to the other point. And container transports are also there. So all these things are the railroad transport services. So this was regarding rail freight transport. Coming to the rail freight transport in India, as I have discussed earlier, only we have taken this particular source from the particular information from ibf.org. So if you can see on the right side, earnings from freight, if you can see it is in US dollar billion, and fiscal year 20 is given here, which is expected to be more, right? So earnings from rail freight transport is like, there is a huge scope for India in this particular area. And if you can see, it has fiscal year where 20 is still going on, and from past 2 years, if you can see, we are trying to better utilize the rail services so that we can have more scope of manufacturing, and there is more scope of business in India. So as of 2017-18, Indian Railway had a total route network of about 68,442 kilometers and operated more than 22,300 trains daily. So a total of 1,106 route kilometer has been electrified across the entire Indian Railways network. So even electrification have been done. And freight earnings in fiscal year 20, as we have seen here, stood at 17 crores that is rupees 17 crores. And freight remains the major revenue earning segment for the railways, so accounting for 65.1% of its total revenue in fiscal year 20. So followed by passenger segment, that is compared to the passenger segment, freight services of railways are being better utilized and is a major revenue earning segment also. Purchase power parities projects investment is estimated to be at rupees 50 lakh crore for railways by 2030. In 2019, Delhi-Lucknow Tejas Express became the first train to be operated by private players. Even private parties were involved now, and from 2019 it has been started. So with increasing participation expected from private players, domestic and foreign, due to favorable policy measures, both passenger and freight traffic is expected to grow rapidly over the medium to long term. So the government of India's focus on infrastructure is a major factor which will accelerate growth of railways. Railways infrastructure plans to invest rupees 50 lakh crore by 2030. So you can see there is a huge investment going on in the rail freight transport in India, and it is going to see a major source of income also. So it is projected that freight traffic via the dedicated freight corridors will increase at a CAGR, that is compound annually growth rate of 5.4% to 182 million tons, that is in 2021 to 22, compared to 140 million tons which was in 2016-17. So even the freight traffic is going to increase, because as we say, that is we are going to increase our participation from private companies also. So private players are going to play an important role. So so there will be huge growth in this sector, and to even freight traffics are going to be increased, and government is taking many initiatives to control this freight traffic too. So this was regarding rail freight transport in India. Next topic of our this video is sea freight transport. And whenever we say sea freight transport, that is nothing but we are trying to use ships and ports, right? So characteristics of sea freight transport: transport of large volumes of goods possible, and if you see, especially suited for long haul and intercontinental transport, suited for almost any type of goods. It is, you can transport any type of goods, even liquid materials also can be transported, such as petroleum, oil and everything. So relatively cheap relation between transport cost and capacity. It is even relatively cheap whenever we are trying to compare with the transport cost and capacity. Rather high safety during transport, relatively low transport speed, because high time is required to transport, so low transport speed is observed here, and highly dependent on weather conditions. This is one of the important characteristics of sea freight transport, that is, they highly depend on the weather conditions. So with regard to the organizations of the sea traffic market and its market participants, regular services with scheduled routes is required. Charter traffic and one-time booking of an entire ship for a certain relation is tried to maintain under this. And even if you see occasional services, booking for a specified volume of cargo according to specific transport needs are considered. And of major importance alongside the infrastructure is the port location. The following basic location factors have been presented here. The seafront location, that is geographical location in relation to the main open sea traffic routes. Example, you can take Nhava Sheva Jawaharlal Nehru Port, which is very that is, it's the seafront location, right? So geographical location in relation to the main open sea traffic route. And then comes is the coast location, which is proximity to open fairway. And the third one is the hinterland location. We have discussed the concept of hinterland in the last video. Economic area which operates its sea traffic via that specific port with varying expansion and depending on type of goods and transport modes. And if you can see, hinterland is like where small rivers are there, lakes are there. We are trying to maintain a port so that internally we can transport it. And if you can see, hinterland locations, or if they are increased in India, there is a huge scope of businesses getting carried out, and even it can save huge cost of the businesses. So increasing the hinterland ports is a very good initiative of any government of country. So some of the port infrastructure determinants are width and depth of fairway, wharfage, open space and storage area, handling facilities, container gantry cranes, that is what cranes you are going to use, information and communication systems. So this all try to form the basics of the sea freight transport. Once we have seen the basics of the sea freight transport, let's look into the sea freight transport in India. So under this, if you can see, the Indian ports and shipping industry plays a vital role in sustaining growth in the country's trade and commerce. So India is the 16th largest maritime country in the world, with a coastline of about 7,517 kilometers. So the Indian government plays an important role in supporting the port sector. It has allowed FDIs of up to 100% under the automatic route for port and harbour construction and maintenance projects. It has also facilitated a 10-year tax holiday to enterprises that develop, maintain and operate ports, so that ports can get ports can develop, and even a revenue can be generated for the country, and even inland waterways and inland ports have also been developed. The Indian government plans to develop 10 coastal economic regions as part of plans to revive the country's Sagarmala project. Even Sagarmala project is one of the projects initiated by the Indian government. And globally, the seaborne oil trade, that is for both crude and refined products, exhibited a growth of 1.58% in 2018 as compared to 2.76% growth in 2017. So within the seaborne oil trade, if you can say the development, the crude oil trade increased by 1.4%, and even if you can see the product trade was at 702 million tons in 2018, which increased by 1.5%. So the crude and product tanker fleets expanded by 0.8 and 0.4%. And if you can see, it is trying to increase the growth of transportation of oil trades majorly through sea freight transport is seen as the major contributor. And on the right side, if you can see, the total income in rupees crores is given. 2014, if you can see, there has been a decline till 2016, but again it is trying to gear up 2017-18, and it has increased a lot, and in 2020 also you can see an increase. And so it is also a good source of income for Indian government, and even for and scope to increase the businesses. So this was regarding sea freight transport in India. Next topic of this particular part of the video is inland waterway transport. So whenever we try to consider the inland waterway transport, the characteristics, if you want to take it, it is a high mass transport capacity, that is low cost at large goods volumes and large distances can be there. 24-hour service due to radar navigation is there. Free capacities on waterways, high reliability and transport safety is there. Also for hazardous goods also it is a high reliable source. And if you see environmental friendly, it is low energy consumption per transport unit, and low network density is there, low transport speed is there. Dependent on weather conditions, because high or low water levels, icing can impact on it, right? And on the right side of the thing, if you can see inland waterways transport, you can try to transport, that is liquids such as tanker shipping, example petroleum products, gas, chemicals, liquid waste can be considered. Under solids, if you can see dry goods shipping, that is general cargo, example steel, iron products, pallets, chests can be used. And under the bulk good, building materials, that is gravel, sand, raw materials, coal, ore, fertilizers, feeding stuff, cereals, waste products, waste materials can be transported. And even if you see container shipping, example solid and liquid materials, containers, scheduled services and chartered services. Under this we can see the medicines, pharmaceutical products also can be there. And the combined or ro-ro shipping, with the concept of ro-ro shipping, that is roll on roll off shipping, we have seen in the earlier video. So example special vehicle transports, that is cars, trucks, semi-trailers are there. So these are the most important forms of inland waterways of transport. So this was regarding inland waterway transport. Now looking into inland waterway transports in India, India has an extensive network of inland waterways in the form of rivers, canals, backwaters and creeks. The total navigable length is 14,500 kilometers, out of which about 5,200 kilometers of river and 4,000 kilometers of canal can be used by mechanized crafts. So about 44 million tons of cargo are moved annually through these waterways using mechanized vessels and country boats. Cargo transported in an organized manner is confined to a few waterways in Goa, West Bengal, Assam and Kerala. So Kerala is also one of the backwaters where where there is a huge backwater scope, and so there are inland waterway transports observed in Kerala huge. So if you can see, even inland waterways consists of Ganges, Bhagirathi, Hooghly river, the Brahmaputra, the Barak river, the rivers in Goa, the backwaters in Kerala as we have discussed, inland waters in Mumbai, and deltaic regions of Godavari, Krishna rivers. And in Assam, if you see, inland waterway transport was established in the year 1958. The total revenue generated for the year 2017-18 was around 195 crores. So you can imagine how much there is a scope of inland waterway transport. So in 2017 it was 18 nearly 195 crores of revenue was generated. And even there is an that is Inland Waterways Authority of India was formed with an aim of improving inland waterway transports in India, and it aims to 120 million ton inland waterways cargo movements by 2023. And Kolkata July 30 that is, and Inland Waterways Authority of India, if you can see, it is aiming to increase cargo transportation through this mode to 120 million ton by 2023 from the current 72 million ton. That is, currently 72 million tons are being generated as a revenue, that is cargo transportation is done, and they are aiming that is, it is aiming to increase this by 120 million ton. So you can see, even it has a huge scope, and a lot of revenue can be generated through all these modes of transportation, where India can benefit a lot. And on the right side, if you can see, investment requirements in IWT and sources of fundings are given, budgetary support and private sector support which are trying to give. And if you see, according to the 15th plan 2027 to 32, if you can see, 49% is the budgetary support, and private sector is getting 51%. So you can see there is a huge involvement of private sector in all this mode of transportation is observed. And privatization is for the for the Indian economy. And this was regarding inland and waterway transports in India. The next topic is the air freight transport. So we're looking into the characteristics of air freight transport, that is using airports as the transport media. So that is, we try to set the cargoes, we call these freights as the cargoes usually under the air transport. So short transport times in the air are there. Transport times are really very short, and especially suited for long distances, that is intercontinental transport. High transport costs are there, but as the time is reduced, costs have increased. Small transport capacities compared to other transport modes. Low network density due to dependence on airport locations. Low network density is there, and dependent on weather conditions, that is especially during takeoff and landing. So weather conditions, it is dependent usually on the weather conditions. Then coming to the air freight services, fall into the organizationally and institutionally separate partial performances of air transport services rendered by airlines, air traffic control systems provided by the air traffic control authorities, and airport services provided by the airport. So airports under the air freight transport, all these three services can be considered. And scheduled flights and charter flights in passenger transports are air cargo traffic, air cargo express traffic, and messenger service air mail traffic is also considered. And whenever we are seeing the traffic, air traffic controls are also part of the characteristics of the air freight in transport. So this was regarding air freight transport. Coming to the air freight transports in India, in fiscal year 2020 till January 2020, domestic freight traffic stood at 1.14 million tons, while international freight traffic was at 1.70 million tons. India's domestic and international aircraft movements reached 1.82 million and 0.37 million in fiscal year 20 respectively. To cater to the rising air traffic, the Government of India has been working towards increasing the number of airports. As of March 2019, India has 103 operational airports. India has envisaged increasing the number of operational airports to 190 to 200 by fiscal year 40. So you can see there is a huge scope here also. Further, the rising demand in the sector has pushed the number of airplanes operating in the sector. So as of July 2018, there were nearly 620 aircraft being operated by scheduled airline operators in India. So the number of airplanes is expected to grow to 1,100 planes by 2027. And if you see, freight traffic grew at a 5.32% during fiscal year 16 to 20, from 2.7 million tons to 3.33 million tons. So freight traffic on airports in India has the potential to reach 17 million tons by fiscal year 40. So growth in import and export in India will be the key driver for growth in freight traffic, as 30% of the total trade is undertaken via airways. In January 2019, the Government of India released the National Air Cargo Policy Outline 2019, which envisaged the making Indian air cargo and logistics more sufficient, seamless and cost and time effective globally by the end of the next decade. So there have been many initiatives by Indian government on all the sectors of the transports, whatever we have discussed till now. That is a good thing of Indian, which try to contribute to the Indian economy. And right side, if you can see, there is an international and domestic freight traffic. If you can see the freight traffic, whatever we have tried to see is like from fiscal year 16 to fiscal year 20. If you can see domestic, if you can see, it has increased, and compared to the that is international, it has reduced, but it is expected to be fiscal year 20 is need to be completed, right? So it is going to increase, because as we are trying to see, there is a huge demand of import and export, which is trying to increase the particular domestic and international requirements. So this was regarding air freight transports in India. The last topic of our particular video is the pipeline transport. So another transport technology is pipeline transport. It is an independent mode of transport. Pipelines can be categorized into 4 groups: oil, gas and product pipelines, as well as other energy pipelines. So oil pipelines distinguish between feeder pipelines and distance pipelines. Feeder pipelines only have rather small diameter of about 10 centimeter and are, if you see, they operate under low pressure produced by a pump. They transport the oil from the well to central points, where it is first processed in order to free it from gases and water. Subsequently, the oil is stored in tanks. Distance pipelines start from this tank farms. So these pipelines can have a diameter of up to 1.20 meter and are operated under higher pressure. So pumps along the route generate pressure in the pipes and are located according to the relief. So the oil travels several hundred kilometers through the pipeline until it arrives at the port or at the refinery. The transport of gas in gas pipelines is similar to the transport of oil, but differs as to the operating conditions and the equipment used. Smaller pipelines lead from a gas field to a gas works, where the gas is cleared of impurities such as water, sulfur and any of the substances. And after this cleansing process at the gas work, the gas is fed into the distance pipeline. In contrast to oil pipelines, compressors along the route generate sufficient pressure in the pipeline. So product pipelines transport is also there, which refine mineral oils such as gasoline, diesel fuel and heating oil, but also secondary products such as Vaseline, paraffin, petroleum coke, lamp oils and lubricants from refineries to storage and distribution centers. So additionally, if you see, gases filtered out in the oil and natural gas production process are transported in liquid aggregate state to refineries, where they are separated again. And coming to the energy pipelines, it comprises so-called two-phases pipelines, which are mainly used as feed pipes between oil and gas fields. So they simultaneously transport liquids and gases resulting from the extraction process. So this was a related, these two products are separated in refineries and gas works close to the production area. So even we have another type of energy pipelines which is trying to boost now in India, that is LNG, liquefied natural gas pipelines, which after liquefaction in special plants carry the natural gas to a port for transport by tank ship or collected from the tank ship at the port of destination. So energy pipelines also include the rarely used type of coal slurry pipelines are also there. So transcontinental pipelines stretching from production areas are considered here. And if you can see, there is all this transportation under pipeline can be considered. And LNG is also nowadays in India, it is trying to it is tried to make available at every area. So pipeline transport helps helps a lot in providing the gas, oil and petroleum energy pipelines. The transport of all these products is very essential. And coming to the characteristics of the pipeline transport, high mass transport capacity is there depending on pipe diameter and conveyor speed, as we have discussed. High network forming capability is there, that is mostly direct connection from sender to receiver is found here. So high network forming capability is there. High reliability and thus planability is required here, which tries to see that we are trying to rely more on it. So planability is also is there required. So low risk of air or water pollution in case of flawless construction and smooth operation. And environmental friendly by avoiding emissions. If you are try to avoid the emissions, it is very environment friendly. So this was regarding pipeline transport. Pipeline transport in India. The transportation by pipelines is a new development in India. Pipelines have relieved the increasing pressure on the existing surface transport system, railways and roadways, that is. The country had a network of about 5,035 km long pipelines in 1980, which has increased to over 7,000 km now. And if you see, key participants include ABB, Econex Limited, Siemens is there, Lucent is there, various companies, FMC Technologies, Emerson Electric company, Schneider Electric, Rockwell Automation. All these companies are among this particular contribution to the pipeline transport in India, not in India but overall globally. And pipelines are most convenient, efficient and economical mode of transporting liquids like petroleum products, natural gas, water, milk, etc. Even solids can also be transported through pipelines after converting them into slurry. So if you can see the contribution shares in crude pipeline network by length, if you can see, IOCL, if you can see, it is the most contributor, that is 50.88% it tries to contribute. Oil is the next one is the other things, that is, but oil and ONGC are also there, which try to contribute to the share in the crude pipeline network by length as of 2019 it is. So out of 10,419 km, you can see the contribution of each of this category. This was related to the pipeline transport in India. Thank you.